Hi, okay, welcome to session 11. We're going to be doing our parallel lines today. We've got a recap. Now, our recap is growing, so just as always, be sensible. If this is a session for itself, then do this as a session for itself. All right, hit pause and press play when you're ready. Okay, so here's the answers. Let's get those up. Right, hit pause and see if we can squeeze it all on there, just about. There you go. Hit pause, do your marking. The ones that are highlighted, I'm just going to point a couple of things out and then we'll be good to go on to our next session, okay? So the question here, I've only highlighted that because obviously we've done this kind of question before, but you do have to be mindful of those negatives. So just if it's gone wrong, it's probably going to be with the negative. So just go in and check with that. Okay. This one down here where we've got a result of 45, because it's a whole number, the answer is yes. It's actually telling us that the 45th number in the sequence would be 134. All right. And then over here again, just being careful of those negatives. I've done all the workings out so that you can see what's what, but it's just very easy for it to go wrong if we're not careful with those negative numbers. All right, then let us get on with today's learning. Parallel lines. I think parallel lines is one of the hardest out of all the angles to learn. It's a real it's something that ends up in diagrams that can be so busy looking with so many lines all over the place. It just ends up being confusing. So we're going to try and take it all the way back to basics so that we can introduce all the language and the way that we use the parallel lines, and we will take it into some more complicated shapes as well, okay, or diagrams as the case may be. So let's first of all have a think about what we know. We know parallel lines are straight lines, okay? They have an equal distance between them, etc., etc. But if we think about our straight lines and our current angle knowledge, if I put a straight line here and I just cross through it like this, my knowledge already can start working on angles here. So if I said that this angle was 120 degrees, just for argument's sake, I already have some basic angle skills. That means I could work out that one. Angles on a straight line add up to 180. So if that's 120, that one must be 60 degrees. But there's also an angle here and an angle here. And I can work these out as well. I could either say I'm on a straight line. So if that's 120, that would have to be 60. Or I could use their vertically opposite. Either way, I am getting that this is 60 degrees here. And this is 120 degrees here. So when a line cuts through another line, there are 4 angles created. There's actually only 2 values. 2 numbers, an acute and an obtuse, that adds up to 180 is contained within this diagram, and it would be true of any diagram. Now, if I was to add an additional line, and I'm going to add it down here, another straight line, that line has equal distance between the top line. That now makes these parallel. And what it's actually doing is it's creating a mirror, if you like, a mirror image of what's going on above. Is exactly what's happening below. Because this line is going into this one at a perfect horizontal, it creates these angles. Well, this line isn't doing anything different. It's hitting the same line as this one at the same perfect horizontal. So all of these are going to have the same values as the above. And I think this is one of the first things to really appreciate about parallel lines. There are a lot of equal angles. In fact, there are only two angles in a kind of basic diagram like this, and then they're just repeated over and over all over the place. And if you can recognize an acute angle, so I know that's less than 90, it's acute. Every acute angle in the diagram is the same. And that's true of the obtuse. So for me, when it comes to parallel lines, if you fall into that sort of bracket of, I've always struggled with parallel lines, and I want you to break this up into two stages. And it may well be that this is one of those that you repeat more than once as a session to walk or learn through. The first thing that you really want to be able to do is find missing angles. Then you want to be able to explain your reasoning, because in an exam, both those parts come up in a question. All right. Now, rather than trying to do it all in one go, if that's too much, then just think, right, at the moment, parallel lines confuse me. If I can start getting some marks through finding the angles, I'm making progress. Once I'm confident with that, I want to start explaining why, and then I can pick up the rest of my marks. And I really think it's really not a bad idea doing it that way. Otherwise, it can be overwhelming and you find yourself not getting much further with this topic. Okay, the real skill then comes in two parts: finding the missing angle and finding the reason. Now, obviously, I'm going to do the reasoning as we go so that you are seeing it all the time. We have to be able to link an angle from the top line to an angle in the bottom line, and vice versa. So if I was looking at this angle here, I need to find a way to link it to its corresponding angle, the angle that's in the same position, but on the bottom line. And I do this by using the letter F. So if I was to now extend that line just a little bit that way and extend that one a little bit that way, I've kind of really highlighted the angle I'm looking at. If I do the same here and really highlight the angle I'm looking at, you can start to see a letter appear. When I join them up, that is a capital F, not a small t. It's a capital F that's kind of upside down on itself. So when I can link an angle from the top to the bottom, or from the bottom to the top in this way using an F, I have found corresponding angles. So F's help me reason with corresponding angles, and they are equal. So I'm about to remove that from the screen. So make sure that you've got that written down. It's a great example and it will help you looking back. And then we're going to look at the alternate angles. Okay, so let's say I am wanting to link this 60 degrees, this time not to that one up there, but to that one there. Remember, I'm always trying to link one from the bottom parallel line to one to the top. So I just did a link to that one with an F. Now I want to see what happens when I link it to this one. So I'm going to highlight the line that the angle is made from, highlight the line the angle is made from, and join them up, and you can see a Z shape. Now, the Z tucked into the corner, okay, are the two equal angles. You will also notice that if you think about this line here running right through the middle, the 60s are on alternate sides of the line, and that's why we give them the name alternate angles. So we find alternate angles by using the letter Z to help us link from the top parallel line to the bottom parallel line. So again, make that note so you've got that really nice and clear. So one of the things that they're going to do to try and make this harder for you, okay, and hopefully I can make this work, is they could just change the angle of the parallel lines. You'll be amazed at just how much that can mess with your head, just by changing the direction. So when we first learn, a lot of our questions are like this, so we can find those Z's and F's and we can build our confidence, and then boom, you get that in your exam. So be mindful of that. One of the best ways to deal with it is to just twist your paper, just twist your exam paper round until they're back to horizontal, and then you can see things a bit better, or twist your body around to look at it. So watch for that sneaky little thing that they can do as well. All right, we are going to do some examples. So let's have a little look. We're going to do, there's my parallel lines. Remember, they are only parallel if they have the arrowheads on them. Otherwise, you'd be assuming that they were when they might not be. If I tell you that is, let's say it's 62 degrees, and I want you to work out that, what you would do, the best way to do that is to use your color, use that highlighter and go, that's the angle they've given me. That's the angle I want, join them up, and I can see that a Z is wrapped around them. So this angle here is 62 degrees. And my reason is alternate angles, not Z angles, which we could be tempted to write, but alternate angles, because they're on alternate sides of the line. Okay, they're both acute, which is what we would be looking for as well. So they're equal, no maths required, happy days. Okay, let's have a look at another one. So there's my parallel lines. We'll cut through in that direction this time. We're going to say that is 137 degrees. I want to know what X is. Okay, now if you're ready to have a go at this, press pause to give yourself a chance. Try and do the reasoning if you feel you can. Remember, I've said you could almost do this in 2 stages. Do it once, finding angles, do it a second time to take in all that information about reasons. Up to you how you feel about it. You're in control of that. Okay. If you're just thinking about your angles, then you would be looking at the size of that, and going, they're both bigger than 90, which means they're equal, 137. So X is equal to 137. I use the right angle as a guide because I know right angles. I'm confident with right angles. The right angle is there, it's bigger. The right angle is there, it's bigger. So it's just one way of doing it. Now, if I actually do the wrapping, so if I say, right, that angle is given to me, that angle is the one that I want. Join them up and you can see that F shape. Yeah, I know it's flipped on itself, but it is the F shape. It's telling me that they're on the same side of the line. So they're corresponding angles. And that's my reason that the examiner would be looking for, corresponding angles. Okay. All right, this time you're going to have a go. If you didn't last time, you may well have, obviously. So let's give you a diagram. So copy this out. We're going to say 81 degrees. That's going to be X. Find the missing angle and give me a reason. Okay, so X is equal to 81 degrees. Hopefully, again, you could see that this is smaller than a right angle. So is that. So they are equal 81 degrees. I am going to wrap around the angle they gave me, wrap around the X, draw it up. I can see that F shape. It's certainly not a Z looking shape. So it is corresponding angles. There we go, written out in full. That would be my reason I would get all my marks. If you got that right, well done. Okay, here's another one for you. It's going to be slightly harder, but I don't want that to put you off. I'd love you to just give it a go and see how far you get. So we've got 40 degrees, got an angle here. I want you to hit pause, have a go at working out the missing angle and give reasons if you can. Okay, so this one is different. So if you're just looking at angles only, you can see this is labeled as 40. It is less than my 90 degrees. And if I look at this one, that one is not. If I mark on the 90, it's bigger. So these are not equal in size. Now, if I've remembered the fact that there are only ever two and they add up to 180, then I could have done 180, take away the 40, gives me 140 degrees, and I've got my answer. And that's without any real reasoning. That's just with a little bit of basic knowledge about parallel lines. Obviously, we want to try and do our reasonings wherever possible. So if we follow through with what we were saying a moment ago, wrap around the one that they've given us, wrap around the one that they want and join them up, you can see a Z shape here, okay? Let's highlight that. You can see that Z shape there. The problem with that Z shape, though, is there isn't actually an angle marked in here for it to match with. So my job is to find that missing angle. Now, mark it on, and you can see it makes that half moon shape. It's sitting on a straight line. And then that piece of maths that you've done from a basic understanding of parallel lines is now being done for a real reason because they're on a straight line. So you would do that maths and you'd just write straight line as your reason for the first step. Now I know that's 140 degrees. I can say that X is equal to 140 degrees. The Z has made the link. They're on alternate sides. So it's alternate angles. Now, one of the things about angles is that there really is more than one way to move around the diagram. That's just one way. It's not the right way. It's just one of two or three right ways. So when it comes to the marking of the worksheet that you're going to do at the end, your steps, your way, and like I talk about, it's like a route. The way you move around the diagram might be in a different direction to the way I move around the diagram. That doesn't mean that what you have done is necessarily wrong. It can mean that you are looking at something, the answers aren't identical, and it makes you feel like you've done everything wrong. But you've got to really take your time and think about each step. It could just be that you did a mathematical error with a takeaway, and that was it. But because it's not the same sequence of steps as mine, then you start doubting whether you did anything properly in the first place. So I am going to show what I mean by that. And I do think this contributes to why people struggle a little bit with the parallel lines. So let's just draw this one in again. We were given 40. We were asked for that. So I did a straight line going down. I could have done a straight line going across. So I could have gone here and said that was 140. And then I could have linked up with an F shape, which you can see there. So my reasons would be actually different. I'd have straight lines still, but then I would have corresponding angles, because that was the way that I went through the diagram that time. Have a look at this. I could have thought, I'm going to link that 40 degrees down straight away. So I'm going to do an F shape, and I'm going to get my 40 degrees in here. So my first move is a corresponding angle. My second move is to do a straight line and get x equals 140 that way. So you can see just from that small demonstration how different each answer can be. They're all similar, they're all along a similar kind of vein, but they are different. So if yours are slightly different to mine, I hope this gives a reason for it and it doesn't panic you and make you feel like you are necessarily going wrong when you may very well not be. Okay. All right, so that is an example of a multi-step question where you're doing more than one thing to get to the answer. Another way that the examiner can try and just mess this up a little bit is they'll give you your, oh, we're still in red, never mind, we'll stay in red. They'll give you your parallel lines and obviously cut through, because without that, there isn't a question. But then they might put another one on. And you know what, just by putting that one extra line on, it can really, really cause trouble. So again, we've got to be super confident about what we're doing, okay? We are all about linking the parallel lines. If I try and link this y over here to this 30, okay, then I'm linking this line with this line. And they're not parallel, so it's never going to work. It's always about the parallel lines. So one of the things that you could possibly do, and these are all just ideas, and some are better than others, but you will go with the ones that you like. One of the things that you can do when they start to get a little bit busier, there's a bit more going on, so now it's harder to see everything, is you could just highlight the actual parallel lines. Then you know that the angles that are created here have to mirror the ones on the other line. They're not going to mirror the same line. So that might be useful. And then you can go obviously on with what we've already done by saying, okay, so that's an angle they've given me. I've already highlighted the parallel line, so I don't need to do much more than just extend the other one. I want the X, which I've already highlighted, and now I'm just going to bring those together and I can see a Z appearing. So I know that my X is equal to 30 degrees. They're on alternate sides, so it's an alternate angle. And then my Y is quite similar to the last one, isn't it? If I look at the Y and just wrap around, and then look at the one they've given me. So I've wrapped that and join up. Again, I don't get a perfect one step here. I can see a Z. I can really see that Z. It stands out for me. But actually, the F is standing out for me as well now because of the way we highlighted the parallel lines first. So I'm tempted to just drop that Y down here, mark it on in that position. I know that that Y and that, well, that angle and that angle are the same because they're corresponding. So the first thing I've done is use my corresponding angles fact to do the Y moving. And now I can see the straight line. Okay, there's my straight line. It equals 180. So Y is equal to 70 degrees. 180 take away 110, and the reason is straight line. So vertically opposite straight line, it's going to be all over this type of question to help you. Z's and F's are helping you. And you'll also see as the diagrams get more complex that they start bringing in triangles as well. So you've got the rule of triangles adding up to 180. They'll use isosceles triangles because they love them. It means that you've got an extra piece of knowledge that you've got to draw on. So lots of things are going to happen. We're going to do a couple of more complex ones so that you've got some help with that. And then you're going to crack on and give this a go. All right. So draw through this one, similar to the last one we just looked at. So you've already got an idea of what you're going to do, and press play when you're ready, please. Okay. So not sure if I've said use a calculator or not. I'll leave that up to you, okay? If you can see what you're doing and you don't need it, you won't use it. If you're wanting to grab it, then please do. This is not about whether you can do all the maths by hand. This is about all this extra information, all the facts going into your head, okay? And you do not need to create any more work for yourself than that. I think that's enough, okay? So I'm going to highlight my parallel line so that I don't get myself in a pickle when it comes to doing my matching. So they are the ones with the arrowheads. They are the ones. Now they've given me 80. And I know that that 80 has to link down. It can't link along the parallel line. It links to the second line. So I know I'm going down here. They've given me Y, join them up, and I can see a perfect F going on there. Hopefully you can as well. There's my F. Well, I say perfect, it is backwards, isn't it? But you know what I mean. So tucked up in that corner is 80, which means tucked up in that corner is Y equals 80 degrees. They are on the same side, it's F, it's corresponding. So that's the language we want to learn, corresponding angles. I've still got X to find. So let's now go across. They've given me 75, so that's nicely highlighted. They've given me X, join that up. And again, there isn't a perfect link. I can see by looking at the angles that 75 is less than 90, the X is bigger. So I know it's going to have this straight line rule, that 180 coming into the problem somewhere. How you do this is entirely up to you. I'm going to do something which is straight line first. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the F, so I want to fill in the gap on the F. So I'm going to be doing my 180 take away 75, which is 105. So 105 degrees. This is a good tip if it's not something you already do. Go and put the information that you work out onto the diagram, because that will then help you see the next thing. And then I've obviously got my F shape going on. So I've got my F there, look. So tucked into there's 105, tucked into there's the same. X is equal to 105 because that is corresponding. And then that is everything the examiner wants. It wants the missing angle, the reason, and if there's some working out, you would show that as well. So hopefully that is going well. It might take a little while. Do not worry if you're looking at it thinking, holy moly, you will get there. All right, it's only practice. And hopefully we can break the back of parallel lines together. So there's one that has the triangle. So we are moving up into slightly more complex. We won't go any bigger than this, I don't think. These are pretty classic questions. So if we can get ourselves this far, we are doing really, really well. So I want you to hit that pause button, draw it out, have a good go. And remember, when you are stuck, stop worrying about the detail and just go, I'm going to find any missing angle I can, because quite often that can help as well. All right. What am I looking at? What do I know? Fire in as many angles as you can find if you are stuck. All right, hit play when you're ready. Okay, so what are we going to do? I'm going to highlight the parallel lines because they're obviously really, really important. I can see the triangle and I can see these edges are marked, which tells me it's isosceles. So I'm not going to lose sight of that, but I'm not going to worry about that until I've thought about the parallel lines themselves. Is there anything I can do at this stage? If it was a no, then I would start thinking about my triangle and seeing if there was something there that I could do. But it isn't a no, because I can see that if I wrap around this 60 and bring it down, I can find this missing angle here because it sits in that Z. So I'm going to mark that in. I know that that is a fact. So that there is 60 degrees. Now I'm in the triangle with an angle. The X is in the triangle as well. So if I could work out this one, that would help me because then I could find X. But I'm now going to consider this. That's there for a reason. Every single diagram you see with an isosceles triangle is there to make you think about isosceles. Now, isosceles triangles have two edges and two angles the same. So if I just draw, it won't be brilliant, but I'll just do it to the side here, just so I can kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. If that was my isosceles triangle, taught in the usual way, that's how we're used to seeing them, okay? Then what you do is you place your fingers on both of these lines. So they're on the lines like this. Then as you travel up, you just travel to that top angle, don't you? That's the one angle that's different. When you travel down, you travel to the two angles that are the same. So as I travel up and down, okay, I point to the one that's different, and this is going up to the one that's different, and then I point to the two that are the same. So these are my equal ones here on the base. But what they tend to do in the exam is they will take an isosceles triangle and they'll twist it around a bit. So it's not easy to know which two it is. It's not always the two on the base. There's the base now. Okay, this is now mirroring what we've actually got in our diagram over here. I've got a triangle where the isosceles markings are like that. So this angle here and this angle here are equal. X and this angle here, they're the equal ones. All right, so we know that a triangle is 180. Take away the one we know, gives you 120. That 120 is for the X and the other angle. These two are the same size. So we've got to share the 120 equally between them. So we divide through by 2, which actually gives us 60 degrees. So X is equal to 60 degrees. And what did I do? I used alternate angles as my very first step. And then I used an isos triangle to help me finish it off. Okay, so it is tricky. If they're all 60 degrees, okay, we are actually looking at an equilateral triangle because equilateral triangles are all 60 degrees, but they're not going to mark that on necessarily because they're giving the game away a little bit more if they do that. Okay, now I know those questions are hard, I really do, but we can't avoid them. We've just got to throw ourselves at it, and if we are picking up some bits along the way, then that's how we're going to make progress. It's not one of these topics that we can just do with a few examples. We really have to push quite hard for it. So what we've got there is the worksheet, and I have obviously provided that as well, so you've got a clear one to work on. You can see that I've highlighted question 12 and question 13. That is because they are harder. I know they're harder. And I think it might be nice to just see them being done rather than just looking at answers only. So what's going to happen with this video is the answers will come up and you can mark. And obviously, if you get question 12 and question 13 right, you're not going to need a walkthrough at all. But if they have gone wrong, it means that you can just let this continue to play and you can have, like I said, talk through for the solutions of those there. All right, so that's how we're finishing this particular video. Okay, so those are the answers. And here is our talk through. So let's go a little bit bigger. And the first question, so question 12. I can see my parallel lines, so I'm going to mark those on straight away and see if there's anything I can do. Now, there is a 50 degrees on that parallel line, so if I pull it down and wrap it round like that, I can see that this angle here would be 50 as well. And I'm marking it on. I don't know if it's going to help me or not. I'm just doing it because I'm seeing it. And so as I see, I do. So I'm going to put a little arrow to that, and I'm going to write alternate angle so that I've written my reason as I go and I haven't got to rethink it. So that's, again, perfectly fine. It's up next to the diagram. It doesn't matter where you write it on the exam page. So doing something like that really just ticks everything, doesn't it? Now I need to find X. I can see it's in a triangle. I've actually got two pieces of information, which means I can find the third. So I'm going to do 80 plus 50, which is 130. 180 minus 130 is 50. So my X is 50 degrees. And that last bit of working out, I used triangle equals 180 degrees. Okay. Now you may have done it a different way because there is more than one way to do this. You could, and I'll mark it on in red, it might get a bit messy, but you might have thought, oh, there's a straight line there. I know that's 50 and I know that's 80. So I know that has to be 50 degrees because of a straight line. And then you could have Z'd down to the X and done an alternate angle. So your reason, if you use the red pathway, so to speak, would have been straight lines equal 180, alternate angles, done. So, you know, like I said before, that's why I think angles can be tough sometimes, because you think you're going wrong because you've done it a different way when there is no right way. It's what you see. Okay. All right, let's have a look at this one. Clean that up so it doesn't distract us. So again, I'm going to highlight my parallel lines so they stand out. I think that's quite nice. I've been liking that since I suggested it. And then I can see the Z, so I'm going to go straight in for that Z and mark on my 40 degrees, write my alternate angle, and I've kind of done everything. Now I need to consider what I'm looking at. I can see the triangle, I can see the edges here are the same, which means I'm looking at an isosceles. Go up to the one that's different, and your fingers come down and point to the two that are the same. So if that's 40, that is 40 degrees. And I know that because it's an isosceles triangle. Now, X is going to equal 180, take away 40 plus 40, which is 80. That's going to give us 100. So X is equal to 100, and I used angles equal 180 degrees in triangle to finish it off. So when it comes to your reasoning, just write it down in as much detail as you can in order to not take any risks with losing marks, and you should be fine. All right, and that's it. That's parallel lines. So as we recap, and there won't be many recaps because we're obviously getting closer to the end of the course, but we'll see it in a couple of recaps. We'll see it in our consolidations. You can repeat the worksheet that I've given you. So give it 2 weeks, get it out again. How much can you remember? They're all great ways for testing your recall. And I will see you next session. Well done today.